Good, hello everyone, and thanks for watching another random palm reading. So this person sent me this pictures of both their palms quite a while ago now. I've got a long list, and asked me the question I would like to have some information on, if anything you could say about my personal life, marriage, children, as well as carrier would be of interest. Not sure what the carrier bit means. Um, but I have to say that immediately when I look at this palm, I think, what a beautiful palm, and also beautiful hands often directly correspond to beautiful people. I think this person is very attractive. I also think that they are logical, practical. There's a lot of squareness to this palm here. If you look here, look at this angle of Luna in particular. I think this is a person that understands themselves, the conscious side of themselves, their dreams, they're probably quite in touch with. Um, and it's a very sort of psychic looking hand, actually. I think this is a very sensitive person and empathic, and probably likely soaks up the feelings of others around them. I think as a result, generally speaking, psychic hands are highly sensitive people, and the flip side is that they are susceptible to lung and throat infections and conditions, asthma, not conjunctivitis, bronchitis, and what's the tonsillitis, and that sort of thing. Also autoimmune diseases, and they're particularly delicate people, really, and they might not sort of correspond with how they feel about themselves in their spirit and who they are as a person, and their, that's not to say that it's not to minimize who they are as a person, and their values and achievements and all of that. I mean, physically speaking, unfortunately, uh, people with long, slender palms like this are generally, constitutionally speaking, on the weaker side, unfortunately. But there's always a pro and a con, and being that sensitivity is a double-edged sword, certainly. But when utilized, that's a huge strength. People with that greater ability to perceive others' feelings have a way about them in situations. They can read the room. They know instinctively when to act based off, how a person's feeling without even words. And that's a huge strength, especially in, psychological roles, counseling, animal therapy, being a social worker, or even just a carer or a support worker. These are huge, I feel, gifts and abilities and strengths and talents, and they need to be utilized. We need to play to our strengths. But I do see, the first things I see about this palm are the lines themselves do appear a little bit weak. And so I can't help but thinking that there is some copper deficiency here, potentially potassium deficiency as well. Copper is the conductive force component in our body that allows electrical signals to flow around. And without that, we essentially are at risk of, if our bodies can't operate, if blood can't flow, if oxygen can't flow, if it affects, it has a knock-on effect on our entire system as a whole, and every single organ. And actually, when you see that in extreme scenarios, and this isn't one of them, a huge lack of copper actually is quite fatal. And the thing about it is, it's not really detectable by, doctors aren't great at diagnosing deficiencies, but they're great at diagnosing illnesses, conditions, disease, sure, but not always great with deficiencies. So it's extremely, and that's what palmistry is just so good for when it comes to health anyway, is spotting these deficiencies. So I highly recommend taking copper and potassium, and for some people, homeopathic remedies work better than others, and particularly I find this works better with the more sensitive people. They're more sensitive to these less brutal and less sort of powerful alternatives. Their bodies respond well to them. And this is a person who certainly knows their body well. As you can see, we've got a well-developed and low-hanging Luna here. This, I feel, is a fire hand, but there is some waterish element here. The palm is certainly very long. We've got a very caring, as I've already said, sympathetic, sensitive nature. The fingers suggest, the shortness of them suggest this person is a doer rather than a thinker. They're not so much an analyzer. They don't really require looking at statistics and facts in order to assess before making a decision. They're instinctive, and they're good at utilizing their instincts and intuition. This is a highly intuitive person, to the point of being potentially psychic, to some degree at least. Mercury, the Mercury finger here is a little bit on the thin side, and I feel like this person's voice is not heard. Perhaps they have a feeling about them that they are their confidence. Well, actually, confidence isn't too bad. Here you can see Jupiter does just about reach halfway of the first phalanx of Saturn. Mercury's a little bit on the low set side, and it's not quite long enough. It could do with being a little bit longer. However, that being said, their voice, they might have quite literally a quiet voice, but their powers of persuasion are strong. Look at the first phalanx of Mercury. It's long, it's rather pointed. There's an ability to articulate, and it wilts in as well. So there's a power here to persuade others. And I wonder, Mercury being this finger of expression and all things communication, I wonder if there's a sense here that this person is utilizing their other assets in order to communicate and express and persuade. And I don't mean that in any negative way at all. As I say, we have to play to our strengths. So I feel like that their literal physical voice isn't quite strong, but they certainly have strong abilities to articulate and communicate at the same time. Now, their sense of duty is strengthened by a certain sense of order and rhythm. It's complemented by Jupiter, which leans in just enough to suggest that their decision-making is sheltering beneath their sense of right and wrong. And this is an excellent sign, and it shows that this person has a good conscience. The thumb is long and strong. It reaches, on the third phalanx here of Jupiter, it reaches halfway, and that's a good sign. And the width of it is a good strength. This person is good with their hands. As I've already said, they're a doer, and they've probably got good tastes as well. It's quite a high set thumb. I think this is quite a strong-willed person. I think one of the things lacking for this person is actually physical vitality. It's almost as though if this person was in another body, they'd be able to achieve a great many things. So here we have the lifeline, and it gets a bit confusing with palms, where the lines are quite faded. It's hard to read. But we see the lifeline here, and on the inside of this lifeline, we've got a secondary lifeline, a double lifeline. And often a lot of palmists go straight to the obvious. It's a double life. They're leading a double life. Not necessarily so. Often a secondary lifeline is assistance, environmental assistance. And the obvious thing for me is finances. And it's often seen in the palms of people who have a spouse who earns more money than them and supports them in this way. Or a trust fund, or parents who are there to support financially. Now, on the inside of this secondary lifeline, which also, shows this person, they likely have quite a close knit, quite a small friendship group, quite a limited friendship group, but potentially they could do with socializing a bit more to broaden that support network. and to stimulate their kind of social horizons. On the inside of this secondary lifeline, we've got these faint but certainly present Mars lines, and these will help with any points in their life compromised immune system or injuries or other ailments. And these run until about the age of about 55. So it's important for this person to really look after their health, after this point. It's extremely important. And what we can also see here, and this is extremely important, and I've already kind of touched on it, is this very strong Mercury line. And this is a good sign because it creates luck. Essentially, a Mercury line like this in Russian palmistry is known as protection from vampires. They don't joke about vampires. There's something around 38 names for vampires in Russian lore. And essentially what this means is it provides this person with luck. But more than that, I suppose you could interpret luck as circumstances. And when we have an ability to just instinctively know what the right thing to do is, that's sometimes perceived as, oh, well, you're lucky that this happened for you. Or, when you chose to do this, this happened. That makes no sense. You're lucky. That's not necessarily the case. My interpretation is more that this person has keen instincts. And as I've already said, being quite a sort of psychic palm, that's exactly what this person has, keen instincts, intuition, insight, foresight even. But notice the Mercury line, or sometimes known as the intuition line, it does also have a bit of an island at the bottom here, and that represents, because the Mercury line is also known as the health line or liver line or via lascivia, I believe, in Roman palmistry. It spells that this person had an illness quite early on in life, and if you look closely at the lifeline, we also see that as well. It's difficult to see here, and actually that's a little bit later on. So let's just pull it back a bit. So this is childhood, really. This is around the age of about 7, whereas actually this is mid-20s, and it's different. It's a different scenario altogether. So there were some health issues. Yeah, you can see a bit of a square going on there, which boxes off this obstacle obstructing this person's flow of energy within their sort of health path, if you like, and that represents hospitalization. And notice also that the Mercury line is a little bit wavy to begin with. It's sort of, the beginning of it is a bit wavy and then it straightens out. That's an excellent sign. This person's health has recovered as a result. But also notice that there is a kind of an allergy line over here as well. And this, again, as I've already stated, being quite sensitive, both physically and, emotionally as well. People who are on the more sensitive side have an adverse effect to pharmaceuticals, and that's what this might be a sign of. And they likely know this as well. Sometimes the symptoms of the treatment is just as bad as the ailment that the medication is treating. Interesting here. I feel like water, we are made of water. You can't go wrong with water as long as it's clean. And I feel for this person, being that Luna is just so well structured here, and this is a sign that they understand their bodies. I feel, amongst other things, I feel that this person could benefit from water in their daily life somehow. I don't know how to put this exactly. I don't mean on just sort of sitting by a lake and meditating. I mean hydrotherapy or swimming. I feel like there's something in this. Now the fate line stems from Luna, and as I've said in a lot of my videos, this shows working with others, having some sort of audience, but being this person has other signs here as well. This caring nature, sensitive. I feel like they're utilizing these talents, as I've already said. So I feel like this is someone who works in care in some way. So I was looking over here for the healing stigmata, and I have to say it's difficult I mean, we do have, some sort of sign of it, but I'm trying also now to look at the relationship line. So we're looking at the left hand here, and obviously all I've said is sort of more relates to the internal. So I'll get around to talking about the right hand shortly. But notice, I want to point this out as well. Notice the headline doesn't start coming away from the lifeline until actually very late on. And this shows potentially there's a lot of anxiety in this person's palm. More physical anxiety than mental. And that's more around health again, I suppose. But this shows overcautiousness and a lack of independence. This is a person who's very dependent on their loved ones. And as I've already stated, their loved ones in their life are limited. And so strengthening their support network, making friends, getting out there, socializing is helpful for this person. It's only going to enable and potentially open doors for this person. It's who you know, after all. Also, if we're too reliant on too limited people, what happens when we lose our support? That can leave us high and dry. And so promoting self-independence for this person is huge. So as far as major events go, I'm looking at the right hand now, and as far as major events go in this person's life, there was an illness when they were a child. I mean, I threw out the age of 7 before, but that's just a ballpark. 25 was particularly 23 to 26, particularly difficult time. I mean, perhaps even a slightly longer stretch than that. I don't know what exactly this was, but this was a very difficult time for them. And then again, 35 is an extremely difficult time for this. Look at what's going on here. It's difficult to see exactly what's going on here, but let's break it down. And it's got a happy ending, I feel. So it's interesting, just going back a little bit now, it's interesting, back to the childhood. You've got the heartline, and it crashes into the lifeline at the age that I mentioned earlier, about 6, something like that, 7. And generally speaking, the heartline, when it does this, reaches into the lifeline, it's almost as though the emotions or the physical health are responding, reaching towards environment, towards something close to home, family, for support. So it could be, this is a vague interpretation here, but it could be that there was emotional support required or physical support required at this time. Whatever it was serious. And I believe that it has affected them on an emotional level due to the, it's not an incredibly low Mercury, but Mercury does seem to have been affected by it somehow. We've got a little bit of a kink going on here. So I do think that this has affected them on a psychological level, an emotional level, perhaps even damaged sexual psychological framework as well. So I don't like the look of it. Again, there's an event here at 25, and it's around the time when this person was really sort of claiming their independence. And so I wonder if it's to do with that. I wonder if they perhaps were a bit naive, a bit green. I don't think they are now. In any case, let's get to this 35 issue, because I'm not really going to get to the bottom of exactly what that was. So we've got here the fate line. It travels up the center of the palm, and it kind of shows a career that's in a sort of hierarchical sort of position. They're working their way up, they're plodding their way along, they're planning, they're structuring, they're working hard, and they are, quite efficient as well in whatever it is they're doing. And then something happens at 35, and I'm not sure, actually it could be about 36, 37. I'm not sure if there was a decision made here to end this role, whatever it is they do, and start again anew. So you see here, you've got the one role, stopped by a decision, as a line comes from the headline. This is a decision coming from their mind, so to speak. And the career line or the fate line continues on a different path, but further down the headline. So we've got a different kind of role here, and there were certainly some difficulties. I don't know if this has been paying off for them, but the good news is that it's definitely going to, and it's more a role around they've it could be a promotion of a sort. They're now more in a position to delegate, that's for sure, and there's more authority around this role. And looking at the Jupiter finger, actually it looks a little bit longer on the right hand, so I wonder if they have put themselves out there a bit more. They've taken that plunge, this overcautiousness hasn't gotten in the way, and they've grown a bit more confidence as a result. So that's all good. I think actually now the decision to end this role was financially related. That makes sense. We've got this interruption here, this obstacle in the way of the career reaches towards this idea of building a material future out of Mars, planning ahead, the future, security. And there it is on the right hand here. We've got this healing stigmata. Look, that's as clear as day. It's seen on the hands of counselors, therapists, physiotherapists, doctors, nurses, carers, and anyone who's into a profession that's helping others. Don't know why I feel like this person's a cat lover. In terms of their relationships, I'm finding it difficult here to gather information because the palms don't really speak too much for the other people in their lives, so much as how they are affected and feel about those people in their lives. And the relationship line here doesn't look bad. It's just, as with a lot of the lines on the palm, it's quite faint. Now on the right hand here, you can see clearly a loyalty line. And as I said right at the beginning of this reading, this person, loyalty, honesty is huge for this person. So it's probably their prime value. And you can see this loyalty line, or duty line as it's sometimes known as, and it kind of cuts through the family ring. And I'm wondering here if this person's child, if they have any children, has been ill. Looking at the left, I think I see 2 islands there. I think I see 2 children. And again, the loyalty line comes from it, and we've got a bit of a square that's formed after. I don't know. I feel like this person is worried about the health of their children. And as I say, our palms don't tell us about our children's health, only how we're affected by that, if that makes sense. So I can't really say, about this person's child's health, because this person's palm won't show that. As far as the relationship goes, I don't see unhappiness. I don't see a great deal of love either, but that might just be because I've not got enough clarity within this image, and because the lines are so faint due to, I think, copper deficiency, and potassium, a little bit of potassium deficiency, it makes it harder to read the lines themselves. So it's not to say that this person, doesn't feel strongly about their partner necessarily. It's just I'm not really able to say all that much when it comes to this person's relationships. But as I say, I do feel this person needs to reach out a bit more, strengthen their support network, make more friends, socialize more. I want this person to be particularly careful. I've mentioned water already, and I feel like that there are benefits to associating themselves to water. At the same time, there'll be an incident of travel around the age of 59, and I want them to be extremely careful when traveling at this time. There's potential here for some sort of accident. And it by the time that this person reaches that age, I would have thought that the lines would have completely changed, and this possibility of future events won't unfold. However, some things are more predetermined than others in the palms, oddly. And so I highly advise just take extra care when traveling in late 50s or early 60s. I'm going to say late 50s. I do think this person will retire relatively young, actually. And money, it's not going to be all that much of an issue, I don't think. Um, as far as happiness and peace and contentment, stability is concerned. Happiness will or likely be more affected by other factors, environmental, relationship, health. And there is a couple of elements around this person's happiness later on in life that there's a need there to protect and secure that. So I think this person will retire fairly young. They'll take, a good chunk of money with them when they do it. I think what this person needs to do now, because I don't see the same thing in the right hand, we don't see this Mercury line, the strong Mercury line in the left hand, in the right hand. So I think this person needs to pay a bit more attention to their own bodies, their health, not to overwork themselves. That's important, to keep away from stressful people and negative people. And that's probably why they've limited their social network, because of, it's just safer for them. When you're picking up on what everyone else is feeling around you and you're surrounded by negative people, life is hard. So I think that's probably what's happening here, but it's also important at the same time to reach out and make connections in case our current support network fails, but also as a way of enriching our social life as well. I wonder if this person has a bad back. I don't know. This sometimes the fate line acts as a kind of how do I put this? A record of spinal health, especially when it runs so straight up the palm like this, and then it just stops and changes direction drastically like this. It's a representation of the spine, as well as, a lot of the lines in the palms represent far more than one thing. And being that there's a bit of an island here on the the heart line, sorry, that position there, that suggests something in the torso, lung or lung related, but then also it could be the spine that high up as to where the injury is, or condition, I wonder. Tricky. So perhaps that had a part in this change in career, because if you've been in a car crash and you've broken your back, well, you're not going to be going to work the next day, and so you might need some time to recover, and then by the time you're ready, you go back to a different role. Perhaps this person fell into more of a teaching role due to some sort of health circumstance. In any case, it's extremely important that this person looks after their health, listens to their bodies, and I strongly suggest working down a route of something more alternative, because their bodies may well respond to this better. I think the treatment they have received hasn't worked for them. It's working for them better now. Definitely, the left hand shows a stronger sign of, sort of toxicity. So that's a good thing they've worked through. And the Mercury line, the fact that it's not here now, suggests that either the health issues aren't there anymore, or they're just not sort of listening to their bodies as much now. So I'm gonna stop here, because I think I'm just waffling if I say any more at this point. I feel actually that's the word I'm going to just use here. When I look at this palm, I feel, which is odd because I don't normally get that. Normally, I just pick up on what, the information is telling me. But the more I look, the more I kind of pick up on certain things. I feel like I know this person. It's weird. Anyway, I'll shut up now. Thanks for watching. I hope you've learned a few things here, and I hope it was interesting. If you've got similar palms to this, and you've read and thought, well, this is nothing like he's saying all this stuff and my palms look really similar. So does that mean that he's wrong? Maybe it does. Maybe you've seen things in this palm that you also have in yours, and I've been spot on. In any case, I'd like to hear from you. So please drop me a comment. Please like, please subscribe, and please watch more of my stuff. Cheers. See you on the next one.